Okay, guys. Today, I will go through the JSX in-depth documentation in the advanced guide section um, of the React. This is on the React webpage at facebook.io/react/docs/JSX in-depth.html. I posted this link to the notes section, so you should be able to see the path to it. So anyway, I think we'll dig through and I'll work through some of these examples. I'll be learning on the go. I haven't gone through this before. This will be the first time I'm going through it. So JSX in-depth guide starts out by saying, fundamentally, JSX just provides syntactic sugar for the React create element, component, props, children function. So it is just syntactic sugar. This is just syntax that gets compiled into something like this, is what they're saying. So it provides the easier way of declaratively creating code that the React framework will understand, and it will convert it to something like this, is what I'm guessing. So I'll go through it and then we'll see. So I think they created a JSX. They created JSX code using component myButton, and looks like they assigned it a color property equals blue and shadow size equals 2 and click me. And this compiled into, so basically it's this compiles into react.createElement. I don't know if this compiling will happen at runtime. That means, is it happening when the browser starts parsing this JSX code, or is this happening during the build process? I don't know if at what point this happens, but maybe down the code they explain when does this happen. Hopefully this happens during the build process. If it happens during the build process, that means it's less work for the browser to do. So anyway, so this JSX code, the myButton color blue shadow size equals to click me button, that this JSX code is compiling to a react.createElement. So basically it's calling the create element method of React itself, and it's saying the first parameter that's being passed is myButton, which is, I'm guessing, the name of the component itself. And it's setting a bunch of properties, in this case color blue and shadow size 2. I don't know why this notation, but maybe we'll know as we go through, we will know exactly why that notation. And yeah, and then the button text itself, they're saying it's click me. So anything you put inside of it, it goes here, I guess. So basically create element is taking 3 arguments. The first one is something called myButton. I don't know if it's not even a string. I don't know how that gets interpreted at runtime, but looks like we pass in something called myButton. It looks like that's how we defined our JSX, and that's what came here. And the color blue is being passed inside a big object. I think the second argument is taking in all the properties. So it looks like we set 2 properties here. So both of them are going in as a second argument. And the third argument is the name, is the text that's inside of this myButton component, myButton element or component. So that's what is showing up here. So they're saying you can also use self-closing form of the tag if there are no children. So looks like I can reduce the amount of code by typing in something like this without the /div. So it allows me to do self-closing tags, is what they're saying. And a self-closing class like this, because we are running everything inside React, React compiles something like this also to something like this. So it's compiling it uh, into react.create element, and then it's passing in the name of the element. I think in this case it's div. Uh, and then it's saying the class name. I think, okay, so the second argument looks like it, you send anything or everything, I guess. So if it's a class name, I'm guessing class name will be a reserved word within React. It's the second argument takes in not only uh, attribute values, it also takes property values. Like if you compare this with the above one, I think here we are sending some properties in the second argument. Looks like it takes properties and attribute values also. By attributes, I mean here something like a reserved property. I mean, I don't know what the terminology is, but looks like something like this is happening here. So it not only takes properties, maybe class name is also a property, but it's reserved, and then it gets interpreted by the React system to actually, when it when it updates the DOM, it'll say that, hey, the class equals sidebar or something on those lines. So they're saying if you want to test out how specific JSX is converted into JavaScript, you can try out the online Babel compiler. This is good. So I can actually see what happens in the online Babel compiler. So I will put these next to each other and see. I'll put this next to each other. They're saying that. So let me increase the font size here. So let me see how this compiles. So basically here, oh, okay, so they actually gave a simple, okay, so they gave a simple function, and then which is doing nothing but returning hello world in a div, and looks like that translates to a function hello, and then in the React system it's going to return a react.create element. So the presets are here. I think yeah, this is not a bad idea to use stage 0 2015. Okay, ES 2015. So I don't think stage 1 is supported by all the browsers. I'm guessing that's the reason why they are targeting ES 2015 stage 0. So let's go back and try to see how this my button will translate. So I'll copy this my button code, and then I will say, so if you see, as they were saying earlier, it translated to basically it is returning React create element. The first parameter is my button, and it's going to the second argument. The second argument has the properties, and the third one has the text that's inside the button. So it looks like this is one way to do it. So I don't think somehow it liked what I did. So I wonder, is it because some formatting is wrong or what? Somehow this one is showing up in red. I don't know why, but I don't know if it's a problem. But right now looks like it's working, even though it's showing this in an error. So I'll say it's kind of working. So we'll dig into it a little later. So that's the first one. In the second one, I think we have a simple div class sidebar. So we'll also try to see how React compiles this. So again, it created a simple create element, I think the first argument again is the name of the element, and the second one is either the properties or the properties plus any attributes we set. So that's sent in an object, and in this case, the third argument, there is nothing in the third argument. Here it's saying null, but looks like there is no name or anything like that. So looks like there is no point in passing null either. I'm thinking if I set this to, uh, okay. So I don't know if one of the presets will change it to, if one of the presets will add null, but looks like this is not adding the third argument null. But anyway, it looks okay to me. So also, I wonder if there is any way to hide this left menu bar. So if I resize it some more, oh, there it is. Okay. So the next part is specifying the React element type. The first part of a JSX tag determines the type of the React element. The first part of the JSX tag. So in this case, if I understand correctly, they're saying the first part of the tag, the type of React element. So let's see what that means. So let's see, the first part of JSX tag determines the type of React element. Capitalized types indicate that the JSX tag is referring to a React component. Okay. So I think if I have something like this, and in addition to it, I'm guessing if I have my name and then say name equals, I don't know if I can do something like this. So I'll make it a self-closing tag. Oh, so this one doesn't even translate properly. This one doesn't even compile properly. Okay, so it's not letting me return. Oh, okay, so if I return something like that, if I remember correctly, I think I need to, it only takes, I think it only takes one tag. I think I should be able to do something like this, I think. I should be able to do something like this. Basically, they want only each React component requires only one root div. So I can't put multiple divs. So that's the reason it did not work. So the first part of it determines the type of React element. If I have a div, I think maybe if I have it in a what do you call, camel case or mixed case, looks like it is referring to another React component. So capitalized types. So if it starts with a uppercase letter, that's what they're talking about. Capitalized types indicate, they're saying capitalized types indicate that the JSX tag is referring to a React component. So this is referring to another React component. These tags get compiled into a direct reference to the named variable. So if you use JSX foo/expression, foo must be in scope. Okay. So looks like it's my name. In this case, my name should be in the scope. Right now, I don't have my name in the scope, but ideally my name should be in the scope, it seems. Okay. React must be in scope. Since JSX compiles into calls to react.createElement, the React library must also always be in scope from your JSX code. Okay. So yeah, so they're saying that both React should be in scope, and not only React, even the custom element, or in this case, the React component that we will be using inside warning button, that should also be in scope, is what they're saying. So for example, both of the imports are necessary in this code, even though React and custom button are not directly referenced from JavaScript. Even though there is no reference to Java in the JavaScript code, neither React nor custom button is referenced. We only have it in JSX code, but they're saying we should still import both of them. If you don't use a JavaScript bundler and loaded React from a script tag, it is already in scope as the React global. Okay. Okay. So we most probably we won't be doing this. Um, we won't. I don't think we will be loading it in the global scope, like what they are saying. But anyway, we'll see what is the best practice. What is the best practice for importing React? So using dot notation for JSX type, you can also refer to a React component using dot notation from within JSX. Convenient using dot notation for JSX type. Okay. I don't understand. So looks like they're talking about in JSX, we can use the dot notation like this. Okay. Let's see. So you can also refer to a React component using dot notation from within JSX. This is convenient if you have a single module that exports many React components. For example, if my components.datepicker is a component, you can use it directly from JSX with. Getting distracted with a bunch of messages. So 1 second. So anyway, I think coming back to this, looks like if there is a React component, um, okay. So what they're saying is you can also refer to a React component using notation from JSX. This is convenient if you have a single module that exports many React components. So it looks like if you have a single module like this, so I'm going to copy this over here. If I have a single module like this, and then let's say it's returning, it's exporting multiple React components. Let's say one of the React components is date picker, and the other one is, let's say, um, my name is the other component. Okay, function name. So I'll create another. I'll create another React. I'll create another React component here. Oops, it's already there. Let me resize this so we can see this better. So I'll create another React component, which is doing. Okay, I'll create another component. Let's say this my name is going to return first name, and then lets me say props dot first name. I'll just say first name for now. Let's see what happens. Basically, this is a simple component. So let's actually we put it in multi-line, so it's easier to read. So if you see, we have two React components, one called date picker and the other one is called first name. And blue date picker, let's say blue date picker will use both of them. So if you want to use both of them, then we have to have a single component at the parent level. And then, so if I want to use for my name component also, so I could do something like my components dot my name, and first name is test or something like that. So it's, we can use self-closing tags. So anyway, so we could do something like this. Somehow it didn't like it. Oh, my component first name, my name. Oh, okay, so I forgot to put a comma here. Okay, so if I look at it in Babel, let's see how it compiled it. So if I see the compilation, so we have, okay, it compiled it, it created a variable called my component. So somehow I think it doesn't like const. for some reason. I don't know why. But anyway, it created my components with, oops. So it has date picker and it has my name. There are two components inside that are exported, that can be exported. And then if you see, the code turned out like this. So bottom line, what they're saying is, I think if you have so bottom line is, I think what they're saying is, if you want to use inside a single module, if you have multiple React components that are exported, if you want to use that, we could use dot notation, is what they're saying. So that's what we did. We used the dot notation and then used two different React components. So the next one is user-defined components must be capitalized. So let's see what that means. So it looks like, I think they don't like something like hello, because it's a user-defined component, and they don't want it in lowercase. It should be the first letter. By capitalize they mean it should start with a capital letter. So when an element type starts with a lowercase letter, so they're saying when an element type starts with a lowercase letter, it refers to a built-in component like div or span, and results in a string div or span passed to react.createElement. Okay. So if it is a built-in component, by built-in component, they're saying if it is a HTML5 element, HTML, if it's part of the HTML5 standard element like div, span, option, select, those kind of things, then it's okay to pass it in. It is required for us to pass it in exactly in lowercase. Uppercase, I mean, yeah. Anyway, so that's what they're saying. So anytime you type something in lowercase, it assumes that you're referring to a built-in HTML5 component, not a user-defined one. So that's the reason why we should avoid, if it's a user-built one, they're saying avoid using lowercase. Types that start with a capital letter like foo compile to React component. So if I put an uppercase D here, looks like it will, so here, if I say, so if I say div, so it expects this div to be, if it starts with an uppercase one, then it thinks it is a it is a user-defined component. I don't know what other problems this will end up causing if I create a component like this with the same spelling, but the first letter is capitalized. But anyway, so it's obviously not a good practice, especially in the React world. In the React world, I think make all user-defined components start with an uppercase letter. So basically, whenever we start it with an uppercase letter, that translates to React.createElement foo and correspond to a component defined or imported in JavaScript file. Okay. So so we recommend naming components with a capital letter. So that's what the recommendation is. They recommend naming components with a capital letter. If you do have a component that starts with a lowercase letter, assign it to a capitalized variable. before using it in JSX. Okay, so they're saying if you end up having something that starts with a lowercase letter, they're saying assign it to a capitalized variable before using it in JSX. So basically that fools the system, I'm guessing. So that fools the compiler because it starts with an uppercase letter. It'll fool the compiler, and then it will fool the compiler into compiling React.create element. So let's see. For this, for example, this code will not run as expected. So they typed in some code. So let's we can run this in this Babel compiler also and see what ends up happening. They're saying this will not compile. It compiled. So even though they say it's not supposed to compile. Oh, okay. I don't think I see any error. Babel is trying to convert this for some reason. So anyway, so from wrong, this is a component. So anyway, so this one has they are creating a React component called hello with which will take obviously properties, and then it's returning nothing but a div with hello props to what. And then if you see function hello world is returning hello to what world. Okay. So wrong, React thinks hello is an HTML tag because it's not capitalized. Okay. So basically because the way we created the React component was creating using all lowercase, it thinks it's a HTML tag, as in it will think that it's part of the native HTML5 tags. And then what does it do? Okay. So to fix that, we'll rename hello to hello. Okay. So basically, they renamed the function or the component to they made it start with a uppercase letter, and looks like that's all. That's all we need to do for it. Okay. So choosing the type at runtime. You cannot use a general expression as the React element type. If you do not want to use a general expression to indicate the type of element, just assign it to a capitalized variable first. This often comes up when you want to render a different component based on a property. So let's say I think they're importing React from React, importing photo story, video story from stories. And then they also have const components, photo, video, photo story, video story. Okay. Function story props. Okay, wrong. Okay. So they're saying that, okay, let's see. So basically they're saying we cannot use the JavaScript object notation to assign a property. So this will not work. JSX, this is not a proper JSX notation. So it won't be compiled properly is what I'm guessing they're saying. So let me copy this into Babel and see what this translates to. Yep. So they're saying unexpected token. Okay, so they don't like this. So, but I think if I do, okay. So the question here is how do we dynamically do this? Because let's say we don't know the property type, how do we do it? So that's what they're talking about. I think choose the type. So at runtime, if you want to choose either creating this component versus this component, how do we do it is the question, I guess. So to fix this, so they're saying to fix this, we assign the type to a capitalized variable first. Okay. Okay. So it's as simple as assigning it to a capitalized variable first and then assigning the property. Looks like this is acceptable syntax. So here, instead of doing this, I can simply create a capitalized variable. Let me call this test story. I don't want to copy it exactly. So, oops. Components props.story type, and then so I assigned it to a temp variable. Now I should be able to use, what they're saying is I should be able to use they're saying I could do something like this. So it looks like this will work. If you look at what this translated to in how this is compiled, let's look at what this gets compiled to. If I see what happened, it created that. Oops. Okay. I'll just take out the React reference and see what happens. So it looks like this translates to something like this. So React create element, it's saying the first argument is the element name. Oops. So the first argument is the element name again. Oh man. So if I click on it, it's scrolling to the right for some reason. So the first argument is again the element name, and the second one is a properties object with story props.story. So that said, okay. So that's one way we can do it. So if you want to dynamically pick a type, I think choosing a type at runtime can be done by assigning the component to a temp variable and then using the temp variable. So the next one is properties in JSX. There are several different ways to specify props in JSX. JavaScript expressions as props. So I think he's saying that we could do something like this to specify properties. So this is a property, and the property is getting assigned this expression. So it looks like expressions, you can put expressions in this curly braces, and it'll become an expression. And it will be evaluated and assigned to that property. In this case, the foo is a property, and if you want to assign the foo property this expression, then this is how we do it, and this expression gets evaluated. In this case, it's 10, it gets evaluated to 10, and it gets assigned to foo. That's what I'm guessing what they're talking about here. So JavaScript expressions as props. You can pass any JavaScript expression as a prop by surrounding with surrounding it with these curly braces. For example, in this JSX, my component foo equals 1 to 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4. They're saying for my component, the value of props.foo will be 10 because the expression 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4 gets evaluated. Okay. If statements and for loops are not expressions in JavaScript, so okay, so basically this is a React component and it has one property called foo. If I want to assign this foo again an expression, I put the expression inside this curly braces and I assign it, and that gets evaluated is what they're saying here. And let's look at what they're saying in the next statement. So they're saying if statements and for loops are not expressions in JavaScript, so they can't be used in JSX directly. Instead, you can put these in the surrounding code, for example. Okay. So if I have a React component called number describer, so they're saying I can evaluate stuff ahead of time and then use it inside the expression like this, is what they're saying. So as soon as someone instantiates this component, it will be passed some values, and that those get evaluated, and basically we return the updated component. So you can learn more about conditional rendering and loops in the corresponding sections. I think we won't go there. We'll just go through it one line at a time and reach to the end and see if conditional rendering is there somewhere and loops is also there somewhere. Okay. So string literals. You can pass a string literal as a property. These two JSX expressions are equivalent. So string literals looks like we can pass it directly to a property or using the syntax where we surround it surround it in curly braces and send it. They're saying both of them are valid. When you pass a string literal, its value is HTML unescaped. So if you pass a string literal like this, its value is unescaped. So these two JSX expressions are equivalent. Okay. So if you have, if you want it escaped, then we always pass it using an expression, and at compile time, it'll take care of basically escaping it or encoding it, I guess. It will encode it and then send it. So if I want to see what this really translates to, so let me see how this will look when I do it in Babel. Okay, so it's saying it's the same, but the only difference is okay. Okay, so maybe I don't know at what time it will end up encoding it. I wonder when the browser is ready to render, React will say, "Hey, render this with all the encoding." So, I don't okay. So if I do this, I wonder what will happen. So it rendered that, and then let's say if I want to render it with less than p sign, I wonder what will happen. I don't know what they're talking about. Then what's the difference between that and this? I don't see a whole lot of difference, but maybe I'm missing something. So if I want to, I don't see a lot of difference, but anyway, to me it looks the same, but looks like it will uh, so it will anyway. So I might be missing something here. Do I need to add anything, the React import or something? So let me see if I need to add the React import, and then will it change how it renders? Okay, so it render exactly the same. I don't see any difference. So I don't know. We'll once we go through some more, I might be able to see it. So the props default to true. Oh, so basically, if I just add the prop, it defaults to true. So basically, um, these two lines mean the same thing. But if I want to set it to false, I'm guessing I have to in the expression I have to pass false to it to set it to true. In general, we don't recommend using this because it can be confused with the ES6 shorthand foo, which is short for foo equals foo, rather than foo true. This behavior is just there so that it matches the behavior of HTML. So they don't recommend something like this. They always recommend you pass an expression to set the value of the property, just so that it doesn't get confused. So let's look at the spread operator. If you already have a props, if you already have props as an object, and you want to pass it in JSX, you can use ... as a spread operator to pass the whole props object. These two components are equivalent. Function app1, function app2, return greeting, first name Ben. Okay. Okay. Cool. So we can use the spread operator. So looks like instead of returning something like this, so let's say I have an object with the same names as whatever the property takes, I could use the spread operator like this. So this is the same as this is what they're saying. So understood. So this is pretty straightforward. Spread attributes can be useful when you're building generic containers. However, they can also make your code messy by making it easy to pass a lot of irrelevant props to components that don't care about them. We recommend that you use this syntax sparingly. Okay, so looks like this is not a good, using the spread operator is not a good practice. It should be used with a lot of care. So children in JSX. In JSX expressions that contain both an opening tag and a closing tag, the content between those tags is passed as a special prop, props.children. Okay? There are several different ways to pass children. Okay, string literals. You can pass a string between the opening and closing tags. And props.children will just be that string. This is useful for many of the built-in HTML elements. For example, okay, so if I put something in between without tags, then it will be passed as a literal string. String literal. So this is valid JSX and props.children in my component will simply be the string hello world. HTML is unescaped, so you can generally write JSX just like you would write HTML in this way. So it looks like it is okay. So let's see. What will this translate to? Okay, so if I just do ampersand, then what will happen? That also works. Okay, this escaping thing, I think, I don't know, maybe Babel is escaping it for me or what? Anyway. So they're saying that HTML is unescaped. So whatever you put literally, that's the stuff that goes out. So if you add a string if you add a letter that is escaped, then I think HTML will render the escaped string also properly. So JSX removes white space at the beginning and ending of a line. Okay. So basically these two are the same. Or not only those two, I think this is also same. And this is also same. Wow. Okay, so all these, it's like normal HTML. So anything in between is ignored, the extra spaces, and blank lines are all ignored. JSX children. You can provide more JSX elements as strings. This is useful for displaying nested components. Okay, so if I have a container, if I want to nest two more JSX elements inside of it, I use syntax like this. You can mix together different types of children. So you can use string literals together with JSX children. This is another way in which JSX is like HTML. So that this is both valid JSX and HTML. Okay. So basically, if you do something like this, because everything is lowercase, is valid HTML and also valid JSX is what they're saying. A React component. So if I copy this, I think it will render it as is, I think. Okay. So it's creating it's calling a create element for HTML elements also, HTML tags also. But I think at rendering time, it will assume that this is actually a HTML standard tag instead of a user-defined tag. So a React component can't return multiple React elements, but a single JSX expression can have multiple children. So if you want a component to render multiple things, you can wrap it in a div like this. Yeah. So basically, it can't we can't return multiple React components. A React component cannot return multiple React elements. So we can wrap multiple elements inside a parent div and return that parent div. And that's one way we return multiple elements. So JavaScript expressions as children. So you can pass any JavaScript expression as children by enclosing it with the curly braces. For example, these expressions are equivalent. Okay. So if I take this, can I, instead of saying foo, can I do something like 1 plus 2 plus 4? Okay, so it's not evaluating the expression at least at this point. Maybe I need to create something like that. Okay. Oh, this is only going to show me what it compiles to, I think. Yeah, it won't show me how it gets rendered. Anyway. So this is often useful for rendering a list of JSX expressions of arbitrary length. For example, this renders an HTML list. Okay. Okay. So here they created a React component that's returning the li element, and there is a function called to-do list. This to-do list function has an array of strings called to-dos, and this is returning uh, the React component, and it's passing it key and message is message. I don't know what the purpose of key here is. Okay. Anyway, so coming back to it, so they're saying expressions are useful when expressions are useful inside a React component to dynamically put values in it. So here, if you have a list if you have a list like this, basically, if you want to dynamically show an unordered list with all the strings in this array, it is a good use case. Basically, take everything and and return a map for each item. So JavaScript expressions can be mixed with other types of children. This is often useful in lieu of string templates. So JavaScript expressions can be mixed with other types of children. Okay, this is often useful in lieu of string templates. Okay. Okay. And this is, we use this kind of, so here hello is a React component. It's doing nothing but if one of its properties addressee, then if the addressee property comes through, then it will just say hello coder or something like that. So this we already know. One is functions as children. Okay. Normally JavaScript expressions inserted in JSX will evaluate to a string, a React element, or a list of those things. However, props.children works just like any other prop in that it can pass any sort of data. So in this case, looks like they have a component called repeat, and repeat is taking props, and one of the properties num times. So it's pushing into items array, a local array. It's pushing children of, oh, okay. It's saying push props children I. So in this case, the children is an expression, and then the expression itself, you're passing the index. Based on that index, it's saying key is index. This is item, whatever the key is. In this case, let's say it starts at 0. So it sets the key, div key 0. This is item 0 in the list. So it's going to print a bunch of divs. So it looks like you can do inside the expression, inside a React components children, we can have a function, and that function can render things also, is what they're saying. Okay. Pretty complicated way of doing it. I don't know what the use case is for doing something like this, but maybe we'll know as we go through. So children passed to a custom component can be anything as long as that component transforms them into something React can understand before rendering. This usage is not common, but it works if you want to stretch that JSX, if you want to stretch what JSX is capable of. Okay, that's what they're saying. So this usage is not common. So exactly, that's what I was thinking. Why would you want to use something complex like this? Common. Basically, we are stretching JSX to do something. So booleans, null, and undefined are ignored. So if you see, so this is a self-closing div tag, another div tag. They simply don't render. So looks like something like this is not rendered, something like this is not rendered. So let's see. Let me copy this and see how it looks. So if I copy that here, yeah, so it's saying create div and null. So if it is, yeah, booleans null and undefined are ignored. Okay, so this is ignored, and looks like this will also be ignored. A simple div with a end tag. Yeah. Oh, even this will be ignored. False, null, undefined, and true are valid children. Okay, so they're valid children. False, null, undefined, and true. They simply don't render. Okay, these JSS expressions will all render to the same thing. Okay, there is no point in rendering false, or basically it's like an empty thing, I guess. So will something like this render then? I don't know. Oh, true also is the same thing. Okay, so you cannot render false, null, undefined, and true. Even though they're valid children, they simply don't render. Okay. This can be useful to conditionally render React elements. This JSX only renders a header if show header is true. Okay. So even if it has content, it won't render. One caveat, so talking about one caveat is that some falsy values such as the 0 number are still rendered. Okay, so looks like something like this is still rendered. Okay. By React. For example, this code will not behave as you might expect because 0 will be printed when props.messages is an empty array. Okay. So basically in this case, it will still be rendered because to fix this, make sure that expression before ampersand is always a boolean. Okay. So don't use truthy is what they're saying. So explicitly state what the boolean value is. Fx, yeah. Instead of using truthy, JavaScript truthy or falsy, they're saying use something like this. Conversely, if you want a value like false, true, null, or undefined to appear in the output, you have to convert it to a string first. Okay. So I wonder if I just have my variable as false. So if I have something like this, and then if I have false, I understand them correctly, they're saying I won't be able to render it. The false value won't be rendered because I didn't convert it to a string, is what I'm getting from there. Okay, so we finished advanced guide, this JSX in depth. So in the next one, I will learn, I learn type checking with prop types is the next one. So I will do another video for that. So I'm going to shut down this one. So let me go and close my Google Hangouts. Stop it.